Let's learn some PowerShell use cases. Before you get started with PowerShell use cases, you should come to my channel Automate with Rakesh, and there is a playlist called PowerShell playlist. The very first video inside this playlist is about knowing the basics of PowerShell coding. You must go through this basic course first in case you do not have knowledge on PowerShell. If you have knowledge on PowerShell, of course, you don't have to go to this video. You can get started with the use cases. If not, if it is long back you have done the course and you don't really recall the commands, then you must go through the very first video, PowerShell in 2 hours for the beginners. In PowerShell, the very first use case that we have to learn is create a test folder and delete the same test folder. So let's see how you can create a folder or a test folder. In PowerShell, the code is pretty simple. The code you have to use is new item. What is that? Remember, only thing you have to remember, new item. Similar way to delete it is remove item. I'm going to show you. Now let's focus on new hyphen item. Okay, verb and then noun, new item. And here I'll provide the path where I would like to create this particular folder. Now before you create, what you do, I'll go to my folder and this is my C drive. Okay, this is my C drive. And here I want to create a folder called PS1, a test folder called PS1. Now for that, all I have to do, simply in double quote, I will write C drive colon forward slash and I will say PowerShell script or PowerShell 1. This is a test folder I have created. Now the next clause that you have to use or the commandlet that you have to use is item type. So a folder, there could be multiple item types. Would you like to create a folder? You would like to create a file? Would you like to create a symbolic link, junction, hard link? So out of this, are you going to create a file or a directory? Folder means your directory. You want to create a folder. And inside that folder, you want to keep the files. So here I want to create the directory. That's all. Pretty simple code. Look at it. New hyphen item, which means I would like to create a new item. And the path of that item should be, I am given C drive PS1. This is my test folder. And the item type should be the directory. I want to create a directory or a folder I want to create. That simple it is. Now if I look at my C drive doesn't have such a folder called PS1. The moment I am going to run this, what would happen? You can see a folder got created called PS1. Do you see here it has said PS1? Let me go back and here I could see there is a folder got created called PS1. If I open this folder, it is absolutely blank because it's a new directory or a new folder. All right, so creating folder you have learned. Now it's time to see how to remove a folder. And remember the word of warning, while you are removing, be very, very careful about the path. So I'll keep the path as it is so that I don't avoid any kind of mistakes. All I will do, simply replace the code from new item to remove item. Simple, remove item. And then here the item type and directory has to be removed. Look at the code, remove item. Be very, very careful about the path, C drive PS1. Okay. Now, once this is done, next I will use something called recurse. What is recurse means? Sometimes your folder can have a subfolder. For example, PS1. Inside that you have created a subfolder. Inside the subfolder you have kept few files. Or inside the subfolder you have created another subfolder. So nested subfolders. And inside that you have kept files. So the first thing it has to do, it has to go to the bottom layer and has to remove the file, delete the file, then come to the top and then delete the file. It cannot directly delete the parent file. So because it has got subfolders, recurse will go layer by layer and try to remove them. and then I would say force. So why force? Sometime you would have read only content and a couple of other things wherein it will not allow you to close it. So I'm saying forcefully delete it. But this command is a very careful one. Do not simply execute. You should use something called confirm. So confirm means it will just prompt you. Are you sure you would like to delete? So you get a chance to read it again. In case if there is a mistake, you should be able to avoid it. Okay. So do not use this command until unless you are very sure you wanted to use it. That is a word of warning. Now let me run this. Now if I run this, it simply prompted me, are you sure you would like to delete CPS1? I will say yes, enter. So what happened? If I go back, that PS1 is already removed. All right. So two simple ones we have learned. What is it? The first one we have learned is as creating one. How do you create new item? Path C drive PS1. And here all you have done is hyphen item type. And here you have mentioned directory. Then you have ran it. The moment you ran it, what happened? This is what you will get it. And if you go back, a PS1 folder got created. Now, if I run it again, what would happen? It said an item with the specified name already exists. That means it won't allow you to create one once again as per the Windows policy. You can see PS1 is already there. So it gave you that problem, that error. Now to remove what you did, simply remove item. And then what are the commandlets you have to use? One is recurse, then force, then confirm. I remember it as RFC, recurse, force, and confirm. And I'm going to run this. Then it will prompt me. Okay, I want to remove this one. That's fine. I'll say yes, enter, and this should be removed. So these are the two important commandlets they have learned: new hyphen item, remove hyphen item, and the sub commandlets that you have to use with remove item or new item. The next thing we are going to learn how to create a subfolder. To create a subfolder, let's first of all see our folder structure. So last time I have removed the PS1 folder. Let me first create the PS1 folder. So you remember the code, new item, and then you have to say path, you have to provide C drive, and then backward slash, and you will say PS1. Now this is the folder I want to first create. To create the folder, the very important commandlet you have to use is item type, and then you have to say what kind, which is a folder type. So the moment I run this, what would happen? The PS1 got created. You see, PS1 got created. Now here the question is, how do I create a subfolder inside PS1? Now create a subfolder, the command would remain the same. What you would only add is something called the folder name, sub1. And if I go into, so this is the folder path I have given. So I'm saying inside PS1, create a subfolder called sub1. Okay, let's say you want to create a T structure. Inside this sub1, you create a folder called sub1.1, for example. Okay, or 1_1, for example. This is what I want to create. Now, if I run this, what would happen? It is automatically going to create that. So if I go back, so what happened? Inside PS1, I see a folder called sub1. Okay, let me slightly maximize if you can see it. And inside sub1, then again, another folder got created called sub1.1. So the code here is this. New item, path, only thing you have to do is add the folder structure, how you want to create, and rest of the code remains as it is. Let's see how you can create a file inside a folder. Now to create a file inside a folder, let's first see where would you like to create it. So here I have the PS1. This is the PS1 folder, and inside that there's a folder called sub1. Let me delete it. I don't need it. So simply I'm keeping the PS1. Now inside the PS1 folder, I want to create a text file to start with. Now for that, how will you do it in PowerShell? Again, we have to practice these commands again and again until it remembers in our fingertips. So new item, and then you have to say path and you have to provide the path. So C drive /ps1 is the folder name. Now here I want to create a file. So I'll create a notepad file. So I'll say test1.txt. So you have to write the extension of the file. So if, for example, if I have to create an Excel file or you have to create a CSV file, I'll say .csv. I want to create a log file .log. If I want to create a text file, I'll say .txt. So you have to write the extension type. After that, you have to use the commandlet called item type. And here you specify what type you want. So this is not a directory or a folder. This is a file you want to create inside a folder or inside a directory. For that, I'll be using the option called item type file. The moment I select file, this understands it has to create a file, not a folder. And it is going to create in this particular path. Now I'm going to run this particular code. So what happened here? If I look at the code, the file got created. Let's navigate to that folder. So you can see a test file got created. Similar way, let's create a CSV file, for example. So what I will do, instead of writing tst, I'm going to say CSV. What I'm saying, .csv. And if I'm going to run this, you would say the CSV file got created. Let's go back to the folder and you can see a Excel file got created, a CSV file. Similar way, I can create any kind of type. Okay, for example, XLSX, Excel file. If I'm going to run it, the Excel file got created. Let's say I want to create a log file, log, and run it. You see a log file getting created. Similar way, you can create any kind of file extension type using this particular command. The next thing we have to see how to write content inside a existing file. For this, let me go back to my folder. So here if you see, I have created a test1 file in the previous command. So this is the blank file. I want to write something inside this text file. For this, what to do, how to write? So there is a command called set content. What is the command? Set content. The very first thing, where would you like to set? So you have to provide the path. So I'll provide the path, I'll say C drive, and then I will write / and I'll say PS1, and then I'll use a / and then it'll tell you how many different files are there in VS Code. So here I would like to write inside this test1.txt. And here, what would you like to write? You have to set the value. So simply remember the commandlet called value. And here, let's write something. For example, hello world. So, okay, so I've written hello world. The moment I'm going to run this, so execution completed. Let's go back to the file and open the file. So you can see hello world is written. Okay, you can see it pretty well. Now let me close the file. Let's go back. Let's write another sentence. For example, I would like to write hello Rakesh. The moment I'm going to run this, look at it, what's happening. If I open this, what happened? The hello world is gone. Now it only thing it has written is hello Rakesh. So the set content, what it does, it is completely removing the previous data and then writing the new thing. Removing the previously written thing and rewriting whatever you have provided. Now, how do I avoid it? I would like to write, let's say hello Rakesh is there. Now I have to write hello world. How that can be done? For this, you have to learn another command called add content. And then the rest of the things remain same, path, and then you will provide C drive, PS1, and then inside this I want to write in test1.text, and then the value you would like to set, and here let me write hello world. Now when I use add content, it does not remove the previous written data. It will add below it. So the first one is going to write hello Rakesh, is going to, whatever is there is going to remove and write it. And then this hello world will be written below that. So before I run this code, what I will do, I'll open this text file. Okay, I'm going to simply I'm going to write it here. Okay, I'm simply typing something and save it. I'll save it, close it. Now go back. So what would happen when the third command, the third line executes? It is going to remove everything and simply going to write hello Rakesh. And when this runs, the add content is going to not remove anything. It's going to keep whatever is there. And then below that, it's going to write hello world. So as an output in the text file, I'll see hello Rakesh and hello world. So let's run this code. It has executed. Let's go back, open it up, and you will see what happened. Hello Rakesh and hello world, two things have come. So this is the thing that you have learned, how the set content and the add content works when it comes to writing something into a existing file. Next, in our mind, it comes, how do I write to an Excel file? Is it the same way how I wrote it to a text file? Definitely the answer is no. To write to an Excel file, you have to use a different technique. Let me show you how. First of all, let's create a variable called $Excel. And then I'll create a new object and a com object, which is component. I'm going to explain you what is it. And then Excel dot application. So what this line does. So Excel is a variable which is going to temporarily hold the Excel application, the Excel executive applications. So com means component object. So component means Word is a component in your computer. PDF is a component. Any kind of application, Excel is a component, right? All these applications are one application components. So here when I say Excel.application, this component is going to be passed to this variable. That means this $Excel variable is going to hold or act like the Excel application that you open in your computer. Like manually you click and type Excel and open it. The same way, this variable is going to do the same job temporarily while the code is running. So Excel is the variable. Think it is an application you're trying to open through the code. So this is the line you have to write. Once you write it, during automation, we generally want the Excel to run in the background. You don't want the Excel to open and then the automation to write it. You want it to remain back. It's a personal choice. So here, all you can do, you can say true or false. Here I'll keep it as false. So that means the Excel will, everything I wanted to write inside the Excel will happen in the background. Later I can open and see it. If you want that to happen in the foreground, you can keep it to true. So I'll keep it as false. Now, in my computer, there could be multiple Excel files. We generally call it as a workbook. So there could be multiple workbooks. So which Excel file you want to work on? I have 10 Excel files. In that, one of the Excel file where I would like to write something. So I'll say workbook equals to, I'll use this variable $Excel just now I have created dot workbook dot I want to open. Okay, I want to open a workbook. So it should be workbooks dot open, and here I am going to pass where my file is. So C drive, and I will say PS1 is my folder, and inside this I want to point out to that particular file. Now for this, what I will do, I'll go to that folder. So there is now no file available. Let me open, for experiment purpose, let me open an Excel and I'll create a blank workbook, and I'm going to file and I am going to save it, save as this PC, PS1. I'll save it as book1.xlx. Okay, saved. Now this, if I close it, go back here, there's a blank Excel file in which I'm going to write something. It's completely blank. So what I will do here, I'm going to simply say backward slash and book1.xlx. I've told the code, here is the file where you have to write. Now this file can have multiple sheets. Currently it has one. It can have sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4, like that. So I want to work on this particular sheet. Now to work on the sheet in the code, what I will do, I'll simply say dollar, I'll say sheet equals to dollar workbook dot, I want to work on which particular sheet. So workbook dot sheets dot item, and I'm going to say 1. So what does it mean? In your workbook there could be multiple sheets, in that pick the first one. That is the meaning. Now once the sheet variable is created, all you have to do is simply use the sheet variable dot. Now every sheet has multiple cells. If I look at, see, there are multiple, this is a cell, this is a cell, this is a cell, this is a cell, this is a cell. Now in PowerShell script, this cell represents first row, first column, second row, first column, third row, first column. So what I will do, sheets dot cells dot item, and here I want to write something. So what I will do, here I will say 1 comma 1 dot value is equals to, I'm going to say Rakesh. Okay, that is the code. That's all. Now once everything is done, you would like to save the workbook. So I'll say workbook, workbook is not even your file, right? So save, and then workbook dot save, and then I will say dollar workbook dot close, and done. Pretty simple code. Now let's run it. So I'll close the workbook, and I'm going to run the code. Let's see what happens. Okay, the code got executed, it completed. Now if I go back to the folder, try to open it, you can see Rakesh is written here. Do you see? It is written here. Similar way, let's say I would like to write few more lines. So all you have to do, copy this, I'll enter a couple of times, and all I have to do, simply change the name. Let's say John, then I'll say Mira, I'll say Dave, I'll say Simon. Okay, so given some names, let's close the Excel file if it is open. It's already closed. So let me run it. Okay, it's completed. Now let's go back, open the Excel. Okay, so here what happened, it has only written Simon, rest is not written. Tell me what is wrong I did in the code. Only thing I did wrong, I did not change the rows. Okay, so all you have to do, simply change the rows to 2, third row, column would remain the same, fourth row and fifth row. Now let us run the code. The file name book.xl already exists in the location. Do you want to replace it? Okay, cancel this. Don't save. I kept the file open. Let me close it. Let's run it again. Okay, now the code is completed. Let's go back, open it, and you can see Rakesh, John, Meera, Dave, Simon has been written through PowerShell script. In file management, we have to learn a couple of more things. For example, moving a file and moving a folder. So how to do this? For this, first of all, let me show you my folder structure. So I have got PS1 as one folder and PS2 is another folder. PS1 contains a folder and couple of files, and my PS2 folder is entirely blank. My goal here is to move the folder 1 to PS2 folder and test1 file to PS2 folder. So how this can be done in PowerShell script, let me show you. Now moving a file, remember anytime this file and all things are coming, remember one keyword called item. So move item, pretty simple. So all I'll do simply say move and then say item, move item, and then you know path. You have to provide the path where the file is there. So for this path and double quote, I'll write C drive and then PS1 is my folder. And inside PS1, I want to move a file whose name is test1.txt. Select the file, pretty simple. And then I have to provide the destination. So where exactly you would like to move it to. So I'll say destination. And again, I have to provide the path of the destination. Now for this, you simply have to provide the path because path you have already declared here in the beginning. So here you simply write it C and then I'm going to say PS2, move it to PS2. Similar way, moving the folder is also same. I mean the code remains same. All I have to do is move item and path, and within that I will say C drive and then PS1. Only difference is I am selecting a folder this time. That's all. And the code is remain exactly the same. Destination and then where would you like to move it? C drive and PS2 I want to move it. Look at the code, pretty simple. Now let's examine the PS2 before I run the code. So the PS2 is completely blank. Let's go back, execute the code. Okay, so the code got executed. Let's go back to PS2 and you can see the folder 1 and text 1 is got copied. Okay, similar way you want to try any other file, the code would remain the same. Similar way, we have to learn how to copy a file and copy a folder. On my screen, earlier we have learned about the move item. So instead of move item, you have to simply say copy item. Similar way, here also you have to say copy item. So this is the command that you have to do. Instead of move, you will say copy item, verb and noun. And then last time we have already moved the test1. So what I will do, let me see what file is available. PS1. Let me copy this Excel file. Okay, so ensure while copying the Excel is closed. Let me close it. This I want to copy to PS2, not move entirely, but copy. That means a copy would also there in PS1 and also in PS2. Similar way, folder 1 last time we have moved it. So I'll say, let's see what folder I have, folder 2. So let's have a look. So in the PS1, I have a folder 2 and a book 1. So this 2, I want to copy it to PS2. Okay, so fine, everything looks good. Let me execute this and let's see what happens. So the execution completed. Let's move to the folder. So in the PS2, if I look at book 1 has come, folder 2 has come. Very good. Let's look at the PS1, folder 2 and book 1 is still there. So it is a copy function that we have learned in PowerShell. Now the next thing is important. How do you test if a file or a folder exists? Checking if a file exists or a folder exists. Now for that, a very simple command. So you are trying to test, right? What do you want to test? You want to test the path. So test the path, whether the file is present or not. So pretty simple code, test-path, and then I have to define the path. So where I would like to see, I want to see, for example, C drive in the PowerShell script 1 folder. Do I have the test1.log? For example, you can provide a path if this particular file is present in this directory or not. This is the command. Now if I am going to run this, you will see it tells you true. True means it is present. Okay, now similar way, if you wanted to test a folder, let's copy this And all you have to do, instead of the file name, provide the folder name. PS1, let's see. Okay, let me check the folder 2. If I run it, it said true. Now, for example, if I pass some other folder, let's say folder 3, which is not there, so the answer is false. Now, the most powerful is search. How do you search for files? Let's see that. Now, to search for files, let me show you the folder. So you remember, this is the PS1 folder which I have created. And inside this, I have a text file, I have a log file, I have an Excel file. And inside there is something called folder 2. In folder 2, there is a sample text. And inside there's a new folder. There I have a text file. Okay. So there are multiple documents available everywhere. Okay. Do you see? So now if I have to find for a file or search for a file. Now manually, if you go and search, it might take a lot of time. You would like to search for a file, let's say, inside a given folder. So how you do it? For this, the commandlet that you have to use is get child item. And then you have to provide the path, which folder you would like to search for. So let's say I would like to search for PS1 folder. Now here you have to apply a filter. So what kind of a file would you like to search? Is it a text file? Is it an Excel file? What is that? So what I will do, I don't know the name, exact name of the file. I might be knowing, might not be knowing. In that case, you can use the wild character star dot, let's say I'm writing txt. Pretty simple. Get child item, path, you provide the path where to search for, then write filter, and then write the extension of it. That's all. So what is the output of this? Any file which has this extension is going to show. If I'm going to run this, okay, so let me first clear it, the previous runs. Let me run it. So now you can see it said hello text. So there is a file called hello text. So let me go to PS1. Here there is a file called hello text, txt file. However, there are also files inside the PS1 folder. There is something called sample text. Inside the new folder, there is another text. Now the output did not show me that. The output did not show me that. So for that, you have to use another commandlet called recurse. Recurse means it will go inside the subfolders, inside the nested folders, and show you if there are any txt files. Okay, so let me clear it and let me run it again. So now if you see the output, look at the output. So it said there is a hello text, okay, inside the PS1 folder. Inside the folder 2, there is something called sample text. Now inside folder 2, there is another folder called new folder. Inside that you have something called new text document.txt. So recurse is the important commandlet that you have to remember. Okay, so let me clear the terminal. Now, what if I would like to search an Excel file? Is it possible? Yeah, same thing. All you have to do, put the extension and search for it. Okay, so you can see it given you this one. Let's say you remember only some of the sentences, not everything. Okay, so for example, I remember book, or I'll say book, and I don't know it is book 1 or book 2. I'll put a star here and let me run it. Okay, so if I run it, let me clear the text, clear the terminal, run it again. So it will find you. So this is the wild character you can use for various search, and recurse is the important commandlet to see things inside the subfolders. The next thing, let's see how to compress a file or a folder. Now before I compress a file, let me first show you the files inside a folder. For example, I would like to compress a file. What is the purpose of compressing a file? To reduce the size of the file. Now let's say I would like to compress it, a single file for example. Now for that, what I have to use? So the word that comes to your mind, compress. So just type compress and then you get a commandlet, compress archive. And then what you would like to compress. Where is that file? You have to provide the path. Pretty simple code in PowerShell. You can see it now. Path, and here I am providing the path where the file is there, ps1, and let me compress the log file, for example. Now once I do it, where would you like to keep it? The destination path. So here I will say keep it in the ps1, and it is mandatory to provide the name of the file. So I'll say test logs dot zip. I'll give a name. You can provide your own name. So that's pretty simple code. Compress, archive. So first you think, what is that verb comes to your mind? I want to compress, I want to search. So that is how you would remember most of the things, compress, archive. So now if I run this particular code, see, it is completed. Let's go back, and here now you can see there is a test log dot zip. Okay, so here this is here it shows you the test log.zip. Now let me delete it. What if I would like to compress a folder? Let's say you have got multiple files inside a folder. Generally, this is the purpose where people will compress. There are multiple files, multiple documents, and you like to share it. Now, for you to do this, compressing the entire folder, the code would remain the same. Okay, once again, let's write compress, archive, and then provide the path. So this time I would be selecting the folder path, which is my files. The name of the folder is my files. And after that, write destination path, give a space, and then write C drive. What is the name you would like to give? So I would like to keep it inside the ps1, and I will say my files dot zip. That's all. That's all. The code is ready. Let me comment out the first code and only run the second code. The code is completed. Now if I go back, you can see my files.zip has appeared. Now let's see if I right click and click on the properties. It is around 12 KB. I have got very simple files. Now if I right click on the zip file, it is somewhere around 8 KB. So there is a reduction from 12 KB to 8 KB. So that's why you generally zip it. So now the zip is complete and the code in front of you should be very clear. All you have to do, compress, archive is what you have to remember, and provide the path, provide the destination path with the name of the zip you would like to keep. You have learned how to compress a file. Now let's learn how you can extract a zip file. Now to extract a zip file, hope you remember the zip file just now we have created is myfiles.zip. Now, what is the opposite of compress? Compress, you expand. So the word is expand. So let's type expand and you would see archive. Last time we learned compress, archive. This time it is compress it, expand archive. Simple. And the rest of the things will remain as it is. Path, and then I'll provide the path C drive, ps1. Where is your zip file? So here in the list, my files.zip has come. Let's select it. And then after that, you remember we have given the destination path. Where is the original file and where is the destination path where you like to unzip it? So for this, again, let's give C drive. Let's say I would like to unzip in ps1. The moment I'm going to run it, look at the folder. Now it is nothing is there. Let me run the code. Okay, so there are a few errors. Contents when expanding the archive file. If you want, look at this. Failed to create file book1.xls while expanding the archive file because there are already certain files with a similar name, so it cannot archive. So for at that moment, what you can do, you can use something called force. Okay, so let me type force. Now let's run it. Okay, now you can see it has completed without error. Now if I go back, so I have got book1, hello text and text log. For example, let me delete because I think these are the same set of files. Hello text, sample text, test log it has contained. Okay, so let's try once again. Okay, I'm not able to literally see the difference. Let me do one thing, delete all the files, and let me delete this file as well, and let's run it. Okay, so yeah, okay, understood. So this was unzipping the main folder my files, and inside that I have all the files. Do you see? So for example, if I'm going to delete this, now I have only the zip file, and I'm going to simply run it. So what happened? The my files got created. Now let's say there is already a my file. If I'm not using this force and run it, so it is giving an error. That means there is already a file. I'm not able to unzip it with a similar name. That's why if you want it to be overwritten, then you use this called force and run it. This time it will not give any error. Okay, for example, if I delete this file and run it again, you can see my files is getting created and all the files been extracted from the zip. I hope this command is pretty clear. Only thing you have to remember, compress archive, and this is expand archive to extract the files from a zip folder. Now, under the system administration activities, we will learn how to manage services. When it comes to managing services on your computer, first of all, you have to open Visual Studio Code in administrator mode. Let me right click and open the Visual Studio Code in Run as Administrator. I will say yes to the prompt, and let's see what we can do with this. First of all, the very first command you must be already aware, that is get service. Okay, let me see, I got some update. Let me close it. So here, get service. When I run this particular code, generally what it does, it will give you all the different services that are running. One has to have a clear idea what is the difference between a service and what is the difference between a process in your computer. So service means anything that runs in the background. For example, on your computer, there is a clock which runs in the background without a user interference. Printing services, Windows update services, which runs in the background. So these are called services. Now, what are processes? If I open a notepad, so there is a process which would be running. I open an Excel, I open a Word document. That means there is a process which is running in the background. So this is the basic difference between a service which runs in the background and the process. It happens because of a human has done something. Let's say I opened a notepad. So the notepad process started running. I opened Excel. The Excel process started running. So this is the basic difference. Now, having that in mind, when it comes to managing services, what we have to learn? First, this commandlet is important, get service. With this, you would see a lot of services which are running. Okay. So one of the services, for example, there will be something called Windows Update, WU. Let me check. Yeah. So you do see WU serve Windows Update. So this is the service which is responsible to update your computer with Windows updates. Now, for example, you would like to see the status of a given service, whether it's running or not. You have thousands of services. You are very specific to see a particular service, whether it's running or it is stopped. For that, the commandlet that you need to learn is this. So you simply say name and then type the name. So what is the name? WU serve. Let me see it again. WU service. Okay. So let's type it AU serve. So this is the name. The moment you give a particular name of the service and try to run the code, then it exactly tells you, okay, this service is currently running. Now, for certain reason, for your administrative purpose, you would like to stop the service. Okay, let's do it. Simply say stop service. The rest of the command remains exactly the same. Let me run it. Now what happened? Look at it. The script got completed. Now let us clear it, the terminal, and let me type get service at the moment. So I've stopped it already. And the moment I say get service and try to run the code, this time it is saying stopped. Do you see? Stopped. It is saying stop. This service has been stopped. Now to start it, once again, what I will do, simply say start service and run it. And then once it is completed, then do get service just to see the status. You will see it is running now. So these are the key important one: get service, start service, and stop service. Okay, comma, stop service when it comes to managing services. Now, the next thing that we have to learn is how do you manage processes under the system administration activities. Now, I have already explained the difference between the service and processes. Processes where a user intervention is required, and services which run in the background. Services examples, for example, your time that runs on your computer, printing spooler services, and for example, Windows Update. These are the services. Processes, for example, I'm opening a notepad, I'm opening an Excel, I'm opening a PDF, I'm opening a Word document. These are the processes where a human has clicked on something and initiated a process. Now, once we have the clarity between these two, let's see what are the commandlets we need to learn. So the commandlets are quite simple. It's more like the services: get process, start process, stop process. Let's type it. So get process, if I type it and run it, I should be able to see all the processes. For example, I would like to see a process with the name notepad, if it is there or not. So if I run it, it will tell me, okay, there is something called notepad. Now let's say I would like to stop it. So simply say stop, run it. So it got stopped. If you want to now check it, get process notepad and run it, you can see cannot find it set because I stopped it. Now if I have to start the process, so here the name parameter will not work. So here what I will do, I'll use another parameter called file path, and here I am going to say .exe. Okay, so now if I run this particular command, okay, you can see the notepad automatically getting open. For example, if I close it, run it again, you can see on my screen the notepad is automatically opening up. So these are the three commandlets you should be aware: get process, start process, stop process. Now, under the system administration, you need to learn about managing event logs. What are the event logs? How do you get the event logs? Let's see this. Now for event logs, now what do you want to see? Get me the event logs. Get me the event logs, right? So what is your verb get? What is your noun event log? Pretty simple code. Now I do not know what to do with this. So what I will do, simply say list. Remember this, list. So when I do list, it will tell me all the different kinds of event logs present. Okay. So when this happens, do you see the blue? That means it's running. Wait for a few seconds. Okay. So what you saw, there are multiple different event logs that I can fetch. One is application event logs. It can be security event logs, system event logs, and different application event logs, right? So I can find different category of event logs. Let's try the event log application. So what is this? This is a log name. Application is a log name, a category name. So once you get the list, simply say log name, and here I'm going to type one of them. For example, I'm typing application. Now if I'm going to run this, wait for a few seconds. So now what is happening, there will be thousands and thousands of application logs, and this will continue to run. So you have an option here. Let me stop it. So what you should do when you type this, let me simply say newest Let's say I want to see newest 20, the latest 20 I want to see. So let me run this. So when I run it, wait for a few seconds. Okay, so it has given me the 20 different application related logs. Okay, so let me clear it again. Clear, and let's run it again. Okay, so you see 10 different application related logs I have got. What are the other things we saw? Application we saw, system we saw, security we saw. So let me type system and let me run it. So what would happen? Now all these things are system logs, system 32, system 32, system 32. These are the logs coming. Similar way, you can also fetch the security related logs. Now to fetch the security related logs, ensure your PowerShell or the Visual Studio Code, the IDE, is opened as an administrator. So when you open from your start search, I've shown it last time, you need to right click and run as administrator. That's where you will be able to fetch the security logs. Now let me run it. I have already opened that way. So you can see the Windows security logs are coming. Group membership was, so this is the security logs. Do you see? Windows security logs are coming. So these are different various categories you can fetch the logs from your system. Now let's do one thing. Let's go back to application logs. Now here what I will do, I'll add few more commandlets. I'll say source. Okay, and I am interested just to see on the MSI installer. Okay, MSI installer. So ensure you don't give an extra space here because this will create issue. So write the exact thing you wanted to see. If I run this, what would happen? It will only give me MSI installer things. Now let's say I want to change from MSI installer to something else. For example, let me say Chrome, and I'm going to run this now. So what happens? The Chrome related whatever events has been written is appearing here in your PowerShell, in your Visual Studio PowerShell. Let's go back to the MSI installer. MSI installer. When I run this, you saw it was showing certain logs. Let's say many times during the system administration, it will be important to understand what are the latest application installed. When was that? You want to know the date and time and all that. Okay. So here, when you run it, you get a timestamp. You source and everything is there. So let's say I want only the timestamp and the message so that I just have a required information, not everything. Now for this, I will slightly change it. What I will do, I'll put a pipe symbol. And here I will say select object. I want to select certain object out of the entire output. One is I want to see the time generated, right? Time generated, and the other one I want to see is the message. Okay, these are the two things I need. So I feel I need to put a comma. Let's see, run it. Okay, so what happened here is the time generated at what time, and it tells you Windows installer reconfigured the product name is VS Click. So you get what are the changes happened, last 20 changes. So it happened on 7/12, December 7th. Okay, today, so 8/03. Okay, so you get the last set of things what happened in your system. This is more important. Select object, time generated, comma, message. Now the next thing we have to learn is Windows Management Instrumentation. So what is this Windows Management Instrumentation? Let me show you. In short, it is known as WMI. I'm going to type get and then simply say WMI object. So what is WMI? Windows Management Instrumentation. So it's talking about instruments. Your laptop may have multiple instruments. For example, network adapter or any device you take. It has a CPU, it has a network adapter, it has a physical memory, a lot of instruments, it has softwares installed. Using this WMI, I can get all those informations. Let me show you how. For this, you have to pass a parameter called class. And here in the class, I have to exactly write what I need. Let me show you one thing. For example, I'll say win32 underscore. Let's say I want to know about processor. So I'll simply say processor. I'm going to run this. So what would happen? In some time, it will tell me this is the processor. Intel 64 family 12th generation Intel 4 is installed on the computer. Very good. Now let's say I want to understand about the disk drive. Okay, so I'll say disk drive and enter. See, it is giving me details about the disk drive. Now let's say I wanted to understand about the network. You can write whichever way you want. Network adapter. Okay, you can write in all in lowercase also, doesn't matter. So you can see it has provided me about the network adapter. Now let's say what else is remaining? Processor, network adapter, physical memory. Okay, so for example, I'll say physical memory, run it. Okay, so you can see this gives me details about the physical memory. Similar way, let's say I want to know about the BIOS. So this will be pretty useful. So BIOS. Okay, you can write BIOS each whichever way you want. Okay, so for example, I'll write all in lowercase. That also will work. Okay, so it is giving me all the relevant information. Okay, for example, I want to also know user accounts, operating system. So like that, you can try out with multiple different keywords for the Windows management instrumentation. Now let me show you some basic networking tasks that can be done using PowerShell. Now here, the important commands that you should be at least aware of is get net IP address. Okay, this is one. And the other is get net adapter. If you want to understand the where it is connected to Ethernet or connected to Wi-Fi, what kind of a speed it has. So this would be helpful. And the mostly used, I would say, is the test connection. Okay, sometimes if your servers are not responding, you're not able to, it's not up. So this is one of the command which you should be aware of. Test connection. It requires certain parameters like the computer name, and here you can provide either the IP address or the URL. So here I'm saying, let's say google.com, and I would like to do only 4 pings. So I'll say count 4. Now if I run this, what is happening? It is giving me source, the target IP address it is pinging, and it's success. So instead of saying google.com, if you have an IP address, you can also do that. For example, I'll just do 4 pings to google.com and run it, and you can see it is directly running with this. So it is successful. You getting it? So these are the at least the basic networking commands that you should know. Test connection, the get hyphen net IP address, get hyphen net, net stands for network, adapter. So these are the couple of 3 important things at least you should have a knowledge on.